So when you look at 2020, is it important to you to have a woman on the ticket?
Across the country, there's a general feeling that we should have a woman on the ticket, maybe 2 women on the ticket, who knows? But I haven't been involved in the presidential. I think it's up to the American people to decide who should be on the ticket. But we certainly should have diversity. Diversity of geography, diversity of gender, diversity of ethnicity, reflection of the Democratic Party. But I'm focused on the fact that 60% of my caucus are women, people of color, or LGBTQ. Also, that of the 106 women in the Congress, 91 are Democrats. So we have made a decision about that.
Are you confident in keeping the majority in 2020?
Yeah, I am, because we're 1 year before the election and we see the opposition. And we don't take anything for granted, but we think we can maintain our majority and grow it and help elect the Senate and a Democratic president of the United States.
And you don't think any of the impeachment inquiry that's underway will disrupt that?
Doesn't matter. Well, it's not about politics. That's about the Constitution of the United States. So it not for 1 second entered into our decision about whether to impeach or not. That was based on, if we decide to go that route, it will be decided on the facts, the truth, and the Constitution.
I asked you the question about the 2020 ticket and a woman because I remember when we spoke a year ago, you talked about your decision to stay and the importance of having that voice at the table.
Well, you see, it's a decision that you have to make. It's a decision. It's hard. It's all that goes with it. But we certainly have many more women at the table. There's no question about that.
And lastly, when you look at the direction of the Democratic Party right now in terms of the messaging, you've been such a staunch defender of the Affordable Health Care Act.
Yeah.
Do you think it's a mistake to message around Medicare for all and things that aren't about defending the ACA, but rather changing everything?
I think that what we're messaging around is health care for all Americans. People have different ideas of how that will go. Put it all on the table. What does it mean in terms of quality of care, cost to the patient, the consumer? And that's what we'll do when we come in with a Democratic Congress and a Democratic president. But I am a staunch proponent of the Affordable Care Act because I think it is the path to health care for all. I think that there are improvements we can make because some of the provisions have expired and the Republicans have refused to renew them. But I also think that in seeing the implementation, there are more things that we can do.
That's the argument Senator Klobuchar and Joe Biden argue.
Yeah, I agree.
Protect what's there.
I agree. Well, it doesn't mean that you couldn't expand the possibilities. I myself wanted a public option when we wrote the bill, but I couldn't get that through the Senate. So that wasn't in the bill. We gave the states the ability to do a public option, which is effectively a version of single payer for people to choose, but not to eliminate their other insurance. But it's hard, and that's why states haven't done it. The closest is California has. California is just remarkable what they have done with the Affordable Care Act, expanding opportunity and affordability and the rest. And some other states have done so as well. But I do think that the Affordable Care Act is the path to health care for all Americans. If that at the end of the day turns into one of these other versions, then that means that decisions have been made along the way. But I don't think that you can decide one day that in a matter of days that nobody will have their private health insurance. I just don't see that as a path. And I do think that though people have their exuberance and their why and what excites them about running for office, and that has to be taken into consideration when we make judgments about their policies, because everybody knows that once you're elected, then you have to work together. If you're president, you have to work with the Congress and see what is doable, because at the end of the day, we want results for the American people.
It's just not a realistic promise, in other words.
Well, it's a matter about timing. I think in the short term, we can promise affordable quality health care for all Americans broader than the Affordable Care Act. Right now, we're hoping the president will work with us on H.R. 3, lowering the cost of prescription drugs. That will be transformative in the lives of the American people. First of all, in terms of their health, and also their financial health, because lowering the cost of prescription drugs is one of the big challenges I said on the campaign trail, the cost of prescription drugs is an issue that makes grown men cry. They come and they say, I don't know how I can afford to provide for my wife or my child the drugs that they need and still feed the family, pay the rent, send them to school, whatever. It is a debilitating cost. And what we're doing is transformative in terms of lowering the cost. I hope the president will join us in doing that.
All right, Madam Speaker, thank you very much.
Thank you, my pleasure.